Hello there, and welcome to this Hort Innovation Insights webinar. Through the Insights webinar series, we seek to help you understand the key initiatives and updates of relevance for the horticulture sector. My name is Adam Briggs, and I'm the head of the Data Insights team at Hort Innovation, and we work to ensure industry are guided by the latest data and information to help inform investments and decision making. I might be a familiar face for those who have joined on some of the previous webinars. But today we're going to be looking to discuss the results from Hort Innovation's annual Impact Assessment Program and the results for the 2018-19 year, which have just recently been released. This program is really valuable in helping Hort Innovation to understand and communicate the impacts of our investments regarding R&D to our grower stakeholders, the industry, and also the government. And today, we hope you will come away from our session with a much clearer understanding of what impact really means and how we approach the work and the key results. And with the support here today with the experts on the line. And on that note, I would like to introduce to our audience our two panelists that are with us today. We have Brendan O'Keefe, who works with me in the Data and Insights team, who's responsible for managing the Impact Assessment Program. And we also have Michael Clark from Ag Econ Plus, who is from the team of independent consultants responsible for completing the impact assessments. So welcome, guys. And by way of an introduction, starting with you, Michael, I might just ask you to provide a brief background around your role and your skill set in delivering this impact assessment work.
Brendan, I'm an agricultural economist. I have 33 years experience. The last 15 years or so, I've specialised in research impact assessment for the research and development corporations, working across grains, sugar, wine, red meat, cross-cutting rural industries, and of course, horticulture. In the team that completed these impact assessments, we have myself, Peter Chudley, Dr. Peter Chudley, and Talia Hardacre from AgTrans Research. Talia and Peter wrote the Council of Rural Research and Development Corporation guidelines that we're using. They were written in 2018.
Good one. No, thanks, Michael, and yeah, safe hands there with the experience on offer in your team. So good to have you here today. And also, Brendan, we'll jump to you and just great to hear a little bit about yourself as well, please.
Hi everyone. I manage the industry analysis portfolio of projects at Hort, of which this project is a part of. So I support Michael in this project and his team by providing project documents, contact details of any relevant personnel who he should talk to, and also review and refine the impact assessments.
Good one. Thanks, Brendan. And let's just kick things off here, just to provide a little bit of a brief background for our audience today on why we actually deliver this work and the focus on impact across R&D. And look, the approach to measuring impact of R&D, it's really reflective of firstly a commitment to governance and also maintaining accountability around our activity, particularly in meeting the statutory funding obligations that we have with the Commonwealth. But we use not only Commonwealth dollars, we use industry dollars and funds when we invest in R&D. So it's important that we're able to demonstrate the impact from the work we do and the benefits that this impact provides from the activity. And this is really where the rubber hits the road. This is where the research is translated into the true benefit from the activity. And the work really formalises that. It ensures we understand what this looks like for growers, but also the broader value chain. And importantly, it validates performance, but it also enables us to turn to where to next and to guide investment priorities going forward. So there are quite a few reasons that drive this work, and it really is about understanding the so what, and that's something within the Data Insights team that we really enjoy working on because it does provide value in so many ways. So with that being said, there's a lot to get through today, and I think the first area I'd like to start with is just to understand a little bit about the methodology and the approach for actually performing these impact assessments. And I'll ask, draw Michael Clark here in working directly on the work and to take us through the approach and the methods that have been used for executing the analysis. As there are a few considerations that do characterise the approach. So, Michael, the first consideration that I'd like to ask about is the approach for sampling the investments, because there are a lot of R&D investments that we do undertake, but we can't necessarily look at every single investment through this work. So we take a sample approach. It'd be a great place to start, just to introduce to the audience the approach for sampling and what this looked like for the 2018-19 assessment, if you can, please.
Yes, Adam. The aim of sampling is to be able to draw conclusions about the performance of the population of Hort Innovation R&D projects in a cost-effective way. So we started with a population of 85 individual projects, which ended in the financial year 2018-2019. These projects needed to have a Hort Innovation managed value of more than 80,000. This was done so that we excluded the less consequential activities that were included in the R&D portfolio, and they might be things like advisory committee meeting costs. So we didn't want to get caught up in the rats and mice. We wanted to concentrate on the more significant investments. 15 of these 85 projects were randomly chosen, which represents at least 10% of the total value of the original sample. And they needed to be stratified by sample size, by project size. So we had projects less than $100,000, between 100 and 200,000, 200 and $500,000, $500,000 and $1 million, and greater than $1 million. Just so we made sure that we had a mix of project size and the portfolio was appropriately represented.
Oh wow, thanks, Michael. Yeah, that's certainly quite thorough there, and a lot that goes into it. But good to be able to note that the results are going to be representative when we're performing the analysis on account of that random sample. So moving on from that, maybe just a little bit on the actual analytical approach. You know, you're looking across so many different projects from what I understand, because the R&D pipeline is so diverse, but it'd be great for the audience to understand the actual approach that you take when performing these impact assessments and how you maintain consistency across your assessments, if possible, please.
Adam, the analytical approach adopted started with review of the 15 projects in a logical framework. A logical framework cascades through project objectives, activities, the method that's been used, outputs, what reports were developed, what processes were generated, what new treatments were developed, and so forth. What outcomes? Outcomes are normally something of value that can be used by industry, and then the impacts. And these might be things like saved production costs, quality improvements in the produce, better environmental performance, or skills developed.
Yeah, right. No, thanks, Michael. I think that's really the key. It's about moving from the activity to the output to the outcome, and then your impact. That's really the flow that we're establishing through the work. And with that being said, let's maybe just let's turn to some of the impacts that you've been able to find here. So I understand there's a bit of a lingo here. Triple bottom line is something I've seen come up a few times around triple bottom line impact, and I know that this does come into our assessments as well. So I'd be really interested, and I'm sure the audience is interested, just to frame what we're actually mean when we refer to triple bottom line.
Adam, triple bottom line is just a piece of jargon to say we considered more than the financial impacts of a project. Triple bottom line analysis spans broad economic consequences, so there might be the impacts on the supply chain as well as the grower, but it also picks up social impacts such as skill development, changes in human health, community welfare outcomes. And then the third leg on the triple bottom line stool is environmental changes. You know, what's happened to water and soil quality as a result of research adoption? Have there been any impacts on ecology or climate change, carbon sequestration? So we look at broadly across all the different types of impacts.
Yeah, right. No, that's really good. I think that's a great way to think about it all. And I mean, yeah, with all of these, did you make all of this up, or what's the go? Did you touch base with the real world to get some of these impacts? Tell us a bit about what you've actually gone through here.
Yes, we were quite comprehensive in our consultation with stakeholders. We started with the research team and especially the principal investigators. But most importantly, we talked to growers to say, look, is this something that you might adopt either now or in the future? Under what conditions would you adopt it? And what sort of probability of adoption might there be? And most importantly, what impacts would it have on your business? In addition, and where relevant, we also talk to supply chain partners and the Hort Innovation personnel that have got a good understanding across the portfolio. Why did we do it? We wanted to make sure that our logical frameworks were right and that we described the thing correctly in the triple bottom line framework, and to generate the assumptions that we needed for quantification in a benefit cost analysis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you're talking to the people in the know so they can really validate, the approach and the thinking that you're going through, which is, critical, really, isn't it? And let's I'm sure I'd like to see just some of the impacts and the benefits that you did find for this year. So it'd be great if you could just talk to what specifically across that random sample of 15, what you've actually found in terms of those impacts, if you've got some of those, and we might be able to bring some of those up on the screen as well, if that's possible.
Yeah, the projects tended to be industry specific, but typically, and I guess from a levy paying growers perspective, there are impacts there that should, when adopted, or projects that should, when adopted, have beneficial outcomes in terms of productivity, increased demand for produce, ability to supply additional produce profitably, improve market access, especially for export markets, decrease production costs, supply chain costs, and efficiencies in research investment. Those are some of the main economic ones. In that suite of 15 projects, we had some initiatives that would avoid waste, enhance biosecurity, and allow growers to further adopt or protect their integrated pest management systems. Social impacts were focused on skills development and, using the jargon, capacity, flow-on effects to regions in which the crop or horticultural product was grown, improve well-being for consumers, and improve well-being for producers as well, possibly taking some of the risk out of producing what they're growing at the moment. So we did have a good split, Adam, between economic, environmental, and social impacts.
Yeah, great. That's the money. That's one of the money slides right there, isn't it? It really captures some of the diverse range of impacts you've been able to find across those. And with that in mind, the representative nature of that sample, it's likely that what we're seeing on paper here is really representative of what the activity in the 18-19 year in terms of R&D has been able to achieve for the growers, which is really good to see. And moving on from that, maybe those are all sort of qualitative in nature. So that's sort of the what. But I'd like to see, I know in your approach, you also look to apply some metrics to the impacts and quantify some of these measures. So what's been some of the approaches there to measure performance? And what have you found there, Michael?
Yeah, Adam, cost-benefit analysis is used to assess project and portfolio performance.
Yeah.
Past investment costs and forecast impact values are converted into present values using discounting, and the Council of Rural Research and Development Corporation guidelines suggests a central discount rate of 5%. The ratio of discounted benefits to discounted costs, or the benefit cost ratio, is most often reported. It seems to be the one that most people can get their heads around, and we like to talk about in shorthand.
Yeah, good. Okay, no, thanks for that. So it's basically looking to of those quantifying the benefits, and really that's the basis of things, and then reporting them in present value dollars. I think as well, just on that, you're talking about present dollar terms. That basically reflects that these benefits are reported many years in advance of the work. Is that's in essence what you're seeking to achieve there, is to bring that back to a common denominator, really, at the end of the day?
That's right. The guidelines ask us to consider the flow of benefits over 30 years. And that's pretty important for some of these investments, especially things like investment in plant breeding, where you may not get an impact for a generation out, 20 years out, but then you get a step change in your productivity. So a longer investment profile is what we've done in these analyses.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's important. And something I might also just flag for the audience, I forgot to mention at the start here, is we do have a Q&A, and we're planning on spending the last little time of our session today on some questions. So if you've got some questions that have come up already through the discussion, or as we go further down, as we progress through, put those questions into that Q&A panel, and we'll look to answer those in the back half. And if we don't have time, we'll put the answers up on our website. So don't hold back there on the questions. Moving on, let's look at what we've actually found in terms of the results for this year's assessment, Michael. That'd be great to see. We've understood the approach, we understand the rationale for this. Let's see what we've found for 2018-19.
Adam, in summary, across the 15 projects, we found that a present value cost for all parties, and that's Hort Innovation investments as well as co-investments, in those 15 projects had a present value of $11.79 million and is forecast to produce a present value of benefits of $40.5 million. That gives us a net present value of $28.72 million and the all-important benefit cost ratio of 3.44. Now, a benefit cost ratio of 3.44 means for every dollar investment, there's a forecast $3.44 returned. And the obvious question is, how does that rate alongside other research and development opportunities and past performances? The last time that the Council of Research and Development Corporations aggregated across all of the RDCs and looked at the performance of the widest possible portfolio of research investments, I think that was 2018, and there are about 300 individual projects assessed. Across those 300, benefit cost ratios were typically in the range of 2 to 5. So a benefit cost ratio of 3.44 for these 15 projects is about spot on. It's in the middle range of a big population across all of research and development corporations. And the other thing that I should have said earlier was that we're confident, given the sampling regime used, that performance is representative, that performance across the sample is representative of the whole population. And the sample picked up about 18% of the whole population investment. That's it in a nutshell, Adam.
Yeah, great, Michael. That's good to know. We're largely on track and performing well in line with the broader ag community as well. So yeah, really good. And I think building from that, if you've got we have sampled 15 projects, but let's maybe take a bit of a look at one project just in detail, so the audience can just get a feel for how we're actually sort of illustrating and working through the impact assessment. So yeah, I'll leave you to take us through an example in that regard.
Okay, an example project would be VG 15013, improved management options for cucumber green mottle mosaic virus. The project cost $1.47 million in present value terms, and it was completed between January 2016 and March 2019. The benefits from the investment were assessed as a yield loss avoided in cucurbit crops, they're your cucumbers and pumpkins and so on. Additional skills in virus prevention and management developed by growers. Disease epidemiology and field diagnostic skills developed by researchers and extension officers, and community spillover benefits from a larger, stronger industry. The bottom line on that particular investment, that was one of our 15, was a benefit cost ratio of 4.13.
Yeah, right. Okay, that's a good one there. I guess we can see through those benefits, they've got the mix of not only the economic benefits with respect to that yield loss, but also those environmental benefits around the field diagnostics and social benefits there with the community spillover. So captures the full spectrum of benefits and impacts there, which is good to see. So thanks for that. And I will flag as well that you can online and part of the as part of this invitation, you would have seen a link to the full project page there. So go in and look at the detail that is enclosed there, because there's a lot that has gone on into these assessments and really a lot of rigor. So I encourage you to go and look at the results across all of the 15 pieces of work. So thanks, Michael, and Brendan. You've been listening intently, and I'm sure you've got lots to share with us. And in particular, what I'd like to just talk to you about is given your role in obviously working with Michael to do the work. I know that there's a lot of potential with this work around the application of it. So what have you been able to do with the results from the impact assessments in your role, Brendan?
So we use the results of the impact assessment in two main ways. Firstly, we use the results to inform investment decision making in the future. Over the 2 years of this program, we now have a big enough sample size to reference. So if an investment idea or recommendation is going to one of our advisory panels, there's a high likelihood that there will be an impact assessment on a similar project in the same industry or a similar project in a different industry for us to lean off. And this is something we've really improved on this year and embedded into our processes to really try to improve on our investment decision making. Secondly, we use the results to demonstrate impact to stakeholders. For example, we report the results in our annual report, and this creates confidence in the action of Hort Innovation, knowing that we're accountable, especially to growers and the Commonwealth Government who we receive funds from.
Yeah, good. No, thanks. It's nice that we're now two years, and I think I did not mention that this is a 3-year commitment here. So we're not right in the middle of it, and already we've got coverage across the full spectrum of portfolios and activities there. So that's really good to know. And going forward, what are some of the opportunities you see for the future of this work in terms of what you're looking to apply and extend, or what are some of the learnings, I suppose, as well in that regard, Brendan?
So now that the program is becoming more mature, we really have an opportunity to learn from the first 2 rounds of impact assessments and improve on them. So we don't actually only improve on our R&D projects, we also improve on our monitoring and evaluation projects as well. So this means gathering better monitoring and evaluation information during the life of the project to allow more accurate impact assessments to be completed. They say with economists, you don't want to argue the theory or the framework, you want to argue the assumptions they make. So we want to make sure that we can make really grounded assumptions on project data. So for example, for a new variety of tree from a breeding program, we would ideally want to collect information on the productivity improvements achieved through that tree, and also tree sales data, which would provide information on adoption by growers. And then we could make a really grounded impact assessment based on that information. Mm-hmm. So this will allow us to have more confidence in both the application and the reporting of results.
Yeah, good one. Now that's really interesting to hear. And yeah, it's all about the evidence at the end of the day and the assumptions that we've got to build off it. So making sure we're collecting that as we go through it and setting ourselves up for success there. So yeah, that's really good that we've been able to understand and build on that. So thank you. Now I will just plug. I think we're coming out to Q&A. So do get your questions in if you haven't done so already. And we do have a question that has come through, but I might just kick one off to start. And that is a question to either Brendan or Michael, and it's around the nature. I know we're mapping these impacts over a 30-year time frame. I'd be interested to learn a little bit more around the dynamic of the impact pathway and how we account for those impacts being realised across multiple years. What are some of the dynamics at play there that will actually, will cause impacts to be pursued not only after the project but for many years to come?
Adam, I'll take that if you like.
Thanks, Michael.
With impact pathways, there's a whole lot of theory about how a new technology will perform, and there's a whole body of literature that the classic starting point is to assume a ramp up of adoption, steady state adoption for a period of time, and then a decay in adoption as alternative technologies come along. So in our evaluations, we start with something that looks like that it's a bit like looking at Ayers Rock side on, and then we consider the particular research outcome to look at different situations. In different situations, it may be the slow ramp up and the technology is good for all times thereafter. So you might get 40% of the industry adopting within 10 years, and it stays adopted at that rate for our 30-year analysis period. But much more typically, there is a decay as a new piece of technology comes in and starts to replace it. And that's what we're trying to work out with a stakeholder consultation. What will the profile look like? Different every time.
Okay, no, that's good to know. I've got another question coming here from the audience, and maybe one even for Brendan to answer, and it's asking around some of the more surprising natures. So what are some of the surprise standout projects after completing this program, and why have the impacts surprised you? So maybe Brendan, you might be able to answer that one.
Sure. So yeah, this gives me an opportunity to plug one of my own projects which I manage, which is delivered by DAF Queensland. So that's the macadamia benchmarking program, which by memory achieved a BCR of greater than 5. So we can see that's quite a bit above the average of 3.4. And it is surprising to get anything that high. But the learning from that for me was that it's the myriad of benefits that come from a benchmarking program. So not only would you get better decision making by growers from having more information on their cost of production or their revenue or yield or information like that, might also lead to greater adoption of other technologies that they can see as worked at other farms, and also that it really informs the actions of Hort Innovation and also the Australian Macadamia Society by letting them know what issues industry are facing and what we need to invest in.
Yeah, good. Okay, no, that's really interesting to hear about. It's more than what appears on the surface. Got another question here, and more around probably the methodology here. And the question is, has the impact exercise been based on defensible modelling, as what we've been described, or has it also looked at real measured impacts and the timeframes to impact? Any thoughts there on that?
I'll take that one if you like, Brendan.
Sure.
Defensible modelling. Yeah, we're using a set of guidelines that have been agreed through the Commonwealth systems and agencies, including the Department of Finance. They've been refined over 20 years. I think the first set of guidelines were produced for grains research, maybe late 1990s. It's a very prescribed approach that takes account of the probabilities and the risks of impacts and reduces your quantified benefits by a probability weighted average. It lines up with methods developed by CSIRO to look at probabilities and risks, and it's broadly established. Our problem, of course, is that we want to do the impact assessment, or our client needs to have the impact assessment done now rather than in 30 years' time. If we waited, it would be much easier to give, well, not forecast impacts, but to actually say what the impacts were. And some of that work is always valuable, but for now and for decision making, it's good to do the forecasting based on agreed systems and best practice.
Okay, no, thanks, Michael. That's hopefully helpful for that and makes sense. And we're out of time, so that's half an hour. That's time. So there were a few more questions which we will post answers to online. So thanks again for your attention and your engagement today, and we've hoped you found it useful, and you do understand a little bit more about not only the approach but some of these results for the year. So thanks for your attention, and I will encourage you again to go online to our website where all of the full results and the analytical approach is outlined there for those 15 projects. The webinar has been recorded as well, as you can see there online. So jump online there to check that out, and we'll leave it there. So yeah, thank you again for your attention, and wishing you all the best over the upcoming holiday period and into the new year. So thank you.